Welcome into Scoreboard Business, presented by The Rogue. I'm Neal McCready. Chase Parham here as well. We'll be with you until about 2:55, and then there we are. And then we'll take a little bit of a break. We'll come back at 3. We'll have our watch party. Pete DeWeese will join us in the second quarter of that. Then we'll have hand-raised guys pretty much immediately after the game today. We're going to figure that out. I think Ole Miss is going to be in a hurry to get out of Lexington one way or the other, because that's just how it works. So we'll have hand-raised guys probably pretty quick to you. One of us will hop on a Zoom. The other will talk to Jeffrey Wright, and then we'll take your calls. We'll talk to Blue Delta Jeans. Blake Kokenauer will join us a little bit as well. We'll have a bourbon of the day here on Scoreboard Business this morning. We'll talk to Ryan Brown in just a few minutes. We'll talk to Jeff Drummond. He covers Kentucky for Cats Illustrated, part of the Rivals Network. And I talked to Taylor Zarzer earlier today. We'll see how that works in this screen.
Little experimentation there, but it's all right. A little
bit. But I talked to Taylor. I talked to him for about 20 minutes or so. He is calling today's game on the SEC Network from his home in Charlotte. They're not on site today. So he showed me, and he'll show you sort of what his setup looks like today. So that's kind of cool. So we'll do a lot of that stuff today. Again, we're brought to you by The Rogue in Jackson. I'll tell you more about The Rogue in a little bit. Chase, how are you?
I'm lovely. The thing with Taylor is, and I guess the answer, you might know this, maybe you ask him, I don't know. He's watching it on a monitor, right?
So got multiple monitors.
Right. But point being, you have to make sure that his feed is the very first thing, you know what I mean? Like when the tape delays and hooked into everything. That's interesting to me that they've got this mobile unit that allows it to still go out at the same time and then be broadcast into whatever's going on. Like that's just kind of what's going through my head there.
Yeah, he sort of showed how it works and described a little bit of all that's involved. His spotter today is in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Oh.
Which is fascinating. So he's got a spotter, and then he's got somebody that's actually in the booth in Lexington. Pretty complicated. Stinchcomb is at his home. Taylor McGregor, the sideline reporter for the Cubs, is the sideline reporter today for ESPN. I think she's there. Not sure.
That would seem to be important if you're the sideline reporter.
Yeah.
I would think that's the one that has to be located where they are.
Taylor's really good at what she does. She's probably good enough to do it from remote, but that would be hard to do.
How much more difficult do you think it is remote versus in person? I mean, may not be that different. You just don't have any type of ambient noise, and you can't describe some of that. But as far as the actual game, I think it would be pretty similar for the most part.
He and Stinchcomb have done enough games together. They probably know when to talk and when they're not talking
that
over
would be the
each
hard
other.
Part.
And,
you would jump on one another otherwise.
Can't see one another. I will tell you the news today that everyone's asking me about is about Otis Reese. As of 2 minutes ago, I was told there's nothing new on that front. I know there are rumors out there that he has been cleared and he is going to play. I'm not going to sit here and tell you those rumors are wrong. I'm not there. I can't see the field. I don't know if he's warming up. I was told yesterday that he was not going to travel, and I am told today that nothing has changed. So if he goes out on the field and plays and everybody goes, oh, you didn't know, you're right. I didn't know.
It does not feel like he's playing. SEC Network apparently screwed up because they just took Sankey and the whole SEC thing without factoring in the NCAA.
Yes.
And then also because they kept Dean Leonard a secret last week, it was just assumed that they would keep Otis Reese a secret as well. I think all those things are playing into these rumors.
And here's the thing. I don't know that they kept it a secret. I don't know that anyone followed up and asked.
Yeah.
I know I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't do any reporting on Dean Leonard after Wednesday of last week because, frankly, I didn't think to. I was so worried about the production of this that I didn't think about reporting. I didn't ask anybody, hey, is Dean Leonard playing?
Mm-hmm.
And then he played. And everybody's like, ooh, Kiffin pulled a smart one over you. It doesn't really work like that. I mean, I'm sure Kiffin's going to keep some things in-house, but if Otis Reese had been cleared, my guess is that would get out.
We've got Florida, South Carolina up on the screen while we're doing this. Gators currently up 24-14. Carolina trying to give it away on a fumble.
And they just did.
Did they give it away?
Yeah, Florida recovered.
Okay. We need that one to keep edging out a little bit to get it covered by the Gators right here. So
got that there. And then Missouri and Tennessee is going on. Tennessee has the football. Let's see what the score is. It's 21-6, Tennessee, 7:56 to go.
The Vols are very solid.
Yeah.
So far, the Vols have been very solid.
Yeah,
they're
solid. They're
good.
They're good.
Yeah, they're all right. This is a really ugly uniform game. Those two uniforms do not complement one another in any way whatsoever.
One, I don't like black pants. If I'm black and gold, we're always going with white pants or yellow pants, but not black pants.
Yeah, Tennessee's orange creamsicles are fine, but the Missouri clashes with everybody, but they really clash with Tennessee here in the orange. So anyway, how long we got before we go to Ron?
5 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, we're not on a firm timetable here.
It's not.
If you got something you want to get to, go for it.
Well, I was just going to talk about Ole Miss and Kentucky, some early thoughts here before we get into the show a little bit. We'll talk to Ryan about this. You and I both, without really, not even the fact that we cover them, but just in general, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Georgia, Auburn, the two most interesting games in a lot of ways today on the slate. Pretty good SEC slate overall. It kind of feels like football a little more today with the games that we have going on. We've talked about it all week, what Ole Miss needs to do, Kentucky, Hayes in the Born, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, this whole 1 week to second week thing, what do you expect differently out of Ole Miss? Is it just more the same? I mean, if there's improvement, where does it come? What is there for being a second week on the schedule for Ole Miss today?
I think there will be a little more clarity on offense. I think they're going to experiment less with Plumlee at quarterback based on things I've heard. I don't think they're going to take possessions away in that regard. Maybe a play here and there, but not a possession.
I think he plays more total snaps, fewer quarterback snaps.
That's what I think too, based on what I've heard. I think we're going to see some Henry Parrish today. I think they're going to try to spread the wealth at receiver a little bit, show that other people can do things, because otherwise the strategy to take away Elijah Moore becomes more pronounced.
Mm-hmm.
They need to do that. I think they're going to try to be more efficient in the red zone, and defensively they just got to be better. They have to
tackle.
Taylor and I talked about this, not to give it away, but he talked to Chris Partridge last night, and Partridge said, the good thing is we were lined up right. Didn't make plays. It wasn't about.
And that's not a joke. That's serious. You got you're in position. You didn't do coverage, but you didn't do alignment bust right off the bat, because, frankly, the last couple of years for Ole Miss, that was one of the they had tackling problems too, but they couldn't get lined up correctly.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, we've told this joke, but it wasn't a joke. People would scout them and they'd go, "I don't know what they're trying to do because they won't line up correctly to show me the formation."
Yeah, it wasn't a joke at all.
All ha ha. But yes, they were not lining up correctly.
Sometimes they didn't make plays because there was nobody there to make the play.
Yeah.
They didn't do their fits. And if you've never played defense, you don't know what that means. You're supposed to be in a certain place.
Yes, their eyes were in the wrong place, Chris.
You plug gaps. So I think they'll do some of that. Interesting game. I think Kentucky's philosophy today is going to be run the football. Run the football,
clock,
until Ole Miss proves it can stop it. So I think you'll see some of that. And here's the other thing that I thought's interesting, and I've talked to a lot of people today, and we always try to talk big picture here. Lane Kiffin really establishing his brand right now, and it's beginning to irritate a few people, but this is his brand.
Who's it irritating?
Some of the people that have lost their access.
Okay.
I mean, Lane Kiffin wears the kind of the Kentucky Derby suit yesterday. He said he was trying to fit in for the Derby.
That's what he said?
Yeah, that's what he said on Twitter. There's a little bit of that with him. He's making this a brand, and he's a big part of the brand. Hell, he might be the brand.
And that's okay.
It's not only okay, it's smart. They're having success in recruiting. I think they're going to get Luke Altmaier. We talked about that on a soft verbal with Zach Berry yesterday, I think. We taped that, so that's up. There's a lot there. It's just they need to win games, but this is not – I've had people ask me today, is this a must-win game? And I'm like, no, in what world? Why?
There is no must-win game this season.
Not one.
None.
Yeah, so it's
year zero.
It's another opportunity. they had a lot of positive response from recruits after the product that they put on the field last week. And they'll try to do the same thing today. Robert, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. He says, thank you guys for filling our Saturday with commentary and allowing the Rebel Grove community to chat and have some fun. Thank you so much. That's the plan. Really appreciate you you noticing it. All right, let's get Ryan Brown on the show. He was a big hit last week. We'll see what he thinks of the games today, what he thinks of Ole Miss's chances against the Cats. I actually think he likes Ole Miss's chances quite a bit. You guys are going to hear the ring here, and there's just nothing I can do about it. So,
what happened? Oh, you mean because we're calling him?
Yeah, because we're calling him. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Do I call him free on Skype or call him on the subscription?
You're asking a question. Just go to call dial pad, then type in.
No, I mean I've got it both ways. I got it here.
Okay,
here we go.
Yeah, we have unlimited calls, so whatever. It's all good.
Hello, Ryan Brown, WJOX in Birmingham. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Neal. How are you?
We are. We're good.
We are live, by the way.
Yeah, he knows. We've covered that ground, but that was nice of you to tell him.
Hey, just
you
look,
never know. That's right.
I feel like everybody should know there's the potential for a hot mic. That's all I'm saying. I'm just.
Everybody's the one, Mike. The one rule one in radio and whatever video as well, whatever you would call this.
So, I guess first, just welcome into the show. Thanks for being here. What have you thought of the games so far today? The two early games.
I'm really impressed by Tennessee and Florida. I pause a little bit on Florida. Their defense has had some concerning moments in this game. Tennessee, they look really good. They're just scored to go up 28-6 on Missouri, and they have controlled this game. And Garantano has looked really good in this game. Florida, their offense is tremendous. I know you guys and a lot of your listeners and viewers got to see that firsthand last week, and they have done nothing to change my mind on that today. Kyle Pitts is one of the best players in America. Their defense early on showed some holes, though, and I don't know what to make of Florida's defense. That's the one thing that's giving me concern about them right now, but that offense is plenty good.
Yeah, that offense is explosive. Pitts is unguardable. Carolina today, from what I've watched, and I've watched most of this game, Carolina has really keyed on Pitts. They've tried everything on him, and frankly, nothing's worked, which is the point sometimes. We were talking about Ole Miss's defense last week. We're another touchdown for the Gators right there. They're
that's good.
We're so accustomed to Ole Miss's defense the last few years not being in the right place at the right time. We've joked about eyes in the wrong place. They don't fit their fits. They're not in the right gap. Blah blah blah. There was a lot Saturday against the Gators last Saturday where they were in the right place. Just didn't have the athletes to make the plays against the athletes that Florida has on the edges.
Well, I've seen Trask make some really good throws into small windows in this game. I mean, I don't think this is a product of South Carolina just being awful defensively. Trask has made some really good throws, and look, you can be. I mean, you got to figure out what you're going to do with Kyle Pitts. You're not going to put a corner on him, obviously. The linebacker cannot run with him unless it's an exceptional linebacker. So it's got to be a safety, and it better be a big safety because he's just got such. By the way, that is a massive pick play that Florida ran.
It was an absolute pick. If that were a basketball game, it's a moving screen. Yeah.
I mean, my gosh, how did that not get called? But I don't. Pitts, you just got to figure out what you're going to do with him. And I don't know that, certainly Ole Miss didn't have an answer until Florida or South Carolina has it. And somebody will answer that question. I mean, Georgia's got a tremendous defense. So it'll be interesting to see how the better defensive teams that play Florida choose to defend Pitts, and what Florida does off of that, I think, will determine a lot of what they're going to do the rest of the season.
Ole Miss, Kentucky. We'll move there a little bit, go through some of the next game up. Neal and I were just talking about Kiffin and his brand, and he gets off the plane wearing the crazy suit and all that stuff yesterday in Lexington. It's about recruiting. It's about establishing or reestablishing, if you're Ole Miss, some sort of national profile. What's sort of been your thoughts just on the way Kiffin's kind of handled things, media brand-wise, over the last week or two?
It's interesting. I mean, gosh, I hate to even bring this up because it's such third-grade humor, but the whole toilet controversy.
Yeah.
I continue to laugh that he's the one coach that would, I don't want to say embrace it, but even acknowledge it. Acknowledge is the better word I'm looking for. I mean, to even acknowledge that publicly and tweet about it, I think it goes back again to what we talked about last week. I think he genuinely is a guy that believes there's no such thing as bad publicity. As long as you get my name right, I'm fine with publicity. And
let's go here for a minute. Let's go here for a minute because I've spent a lot of time in my career on the SEC teleconference, and so here's
horrible.
Here's it's bad. It's really bad. But especially back in my radio days, we would use it, for a coach said this, a coach said that. You'd set up a quote.
Yeah.
So I've dialed in enough times for the people who've never been on the SEC coaches teleconference. Here's how it works. You call the number, and they answer. Chase already knows where I'm going.
Yeah.
They answer, and they say, what's your password? And you either have a password, which means you intend to ask questions, or you say, I'm listen only. Either way, they get your name, they get your media affiliation, and they get a phone number. And then they say, okay, I'm going to join you to the call. Your line is muted. My only concern, if you have one, and I don't care at all, it's like you said, it's third-grade humor, is when Kiffin says that his line, it was a reporter's line that was open.
That's not the way that works.
Yeah, that's not how that works. I mean, look, I don't care if Lane Kiffin does the teleconference from the toilet. It doesn't bother me, whatever. But his explanation, and while it will be accepted by the masses as true, as someone who has been on that call, I'm skeptical of his explanation.
Yeah, but I guess the broader point, though, is true or not. I mean, if you're Lane Kiffin and TMZ is tweeting about it, because that was the one he retweeted, right? Was TMZ. I mean, you look at that, and again, it goes back to what we talked about last week. A lot of what Kiffin is doing is to appeal to the 17 and 18-year-olds. And you're dyed in the wool. I've been going to Ole Miss football in the Grove for 40 years, ain't paying attention to TMZ. But a lot of those kids do. So I think for him, whether it was true or not, the fact that TMZ is talking about me, and it's not entirely negative, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, and, 17 and 18-year-olds, like a lot of us still, they do find toilet humor funny. And so
yes, they do.
So it was probably something that comes up in conversation when he talks to kids. Hey, coach, man, come on, really? Were you on the toilet? I mean, I'm sure they would say it a little differently than that, but we're trying to be somewhat family friendly here at 1:18 in the afternoon. I mean, you know what I mean? That kind of comes up. This is where I think the guy is, from a marketing standpoint, I think he's absolutely brilliant.
No, I don't disagree. And there are going to be some things he throws out that are going to be, let's don't do that, Lane, and he'll have to dial those back. But I mean, anybody that tries to market through publicity like that has to do that. They do things that, a lot of times you go back and look at it and you're like, I probably shouldn't have tweeted that one, shouldn't have said that one. And I mean, if you're going to ride the edge, you're going to fall over the edge on occasion. I mean, that's just going to happen. So I think you got to accept that if that's going to be your strategy for publicity is, doing things, shaking it up, doing things a little bit different. That's going to create some pain sometimes. And I can't even, I do remember the one in Florida Atlantic when he openly criticized the officiating. And he tweeted the blind officials. Photograph.
Yeah.
I mean, we laugh at that, but I mean, I'm sure there's an athletic director that's like, oh my God, Lane, you cannot be doing this to me.
It was their president or their AD that actually came out, though, and said, hey, no, we're all about this, because he started quoting and talking about how many more students they were getting because the football team was winning, and basically said, look, I hired Lane Kiffin. I know what I'm getting with Lane Kiffin. It is what it is. Look over here at what he's doing for me monetarily, for numbers, for enrollment. And that's where Ole Miss kind of is right now. I mean, he wears the LFG shirt on the press conference of the day, and there were some people that went, that's not family friendly. Look, you hired Lane Kiffin. You get Lane Kiffin. And then you have to shut up and just let Lane Kiffin be Lane Kiffin. Because until Ole Miss gets consistently back winning and doing whatever, Lane Kiffin is the brand, and frankly, that's the better spot you're in when you're trying to build a program, is your head coach being that type of brand. I think it's where college athletics are so different. It's not uncommon for the coach to be more important than the program in some ways.
Yeah, but and you're absolutely right about that. And really, probably the only place in the NFL where that's different is in New England,
right?
Where Belichick is kind of the face of the franchise. By and large, you go to any other NFL market, and a player is the face of the franchise. But it's more important in college because you're having to sell in college. You don't have to sell in the NFL. I mean, winning and losing sells the tickets. And you draft the players. They don't really have a choice in the matter. But in college, you got to sell. And the truth of it is, if you're at Ole Miss, a place like that, you've got to sell harder to get the same type of level recruits that, an Alabama or Georgia is getting or an Auburn is getting. You've got to sell a little bit harder at Ole Miss.
We talked about this.
I mean, I think that's the type of guy you want.
We talked about this last week. Even at Alabama, Nick Saban is now as much a part of the program, if not more of the if I say Alabama football, the first thought you think is Nick Saban.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it's there. And if Alabama's to a point that even they have to have a kind of brand to be national, well, then, to your point, obviously Ole Miss does too. The whole Matt Luke kind of coach wasn't going to work here. It's nondescript. It's Sam Pittman at Arkansas. It's kind of boring. No one's talking about Arkansas right now. It's not fun.
And one thing that is interesting to me is, what he's really done is going out of his way to embrace ESPN. He will do absolutely anything ESPN asks him to do. Like a lot of people were really surprised that he agreed to the Bo Mattingly, inside the program deal that he did. I wasn't surprised at all. It was on ESPN. And I mean, I think he's convinced him. Yeah, I mean, not convinced himself. I mean, it's obvious that you can get the attention of these kids through SportsCenter and through the social media stuff that comes with that. And then the other thing he's done is, and Nick Saban, I guess he's earned this spot that he's an attractive guy for the NFL Network or ESPN to use for their draft analysis. So he's agreed to do that over the years. And all it does is, again, drive home the point to a 17-year-old watching the NFL draft. I'm here because I got 4 guys that are about to go in the first round, And, I mean, he has realized how to play the publicity game, even though he's social media. He's realized the way he can play the publicity game and sell his program. So, yeah, I mean, even Nick Saban understands. He could easily say, no, I don't really have an interest to come to the NFL draft. Oh, I don't want to be there. He sees the value in the publicity of it. So, yeah, absolutely.
From a matchup standpoint, I know you watched a lot of Kentucky last week because they were playing Auburn, and you have to spend your week talking about a lot of Auburn football, a lot of Alabama football. I've been in the state. I know how it works. So you saw Kentucky a lot. Ole Miss plays Kentucky in about an hour and 38 minutes or so. There in Lexington, what do you think of the matchup?
I like it. I like what I saw out of Ole Miss's offense. In fact, we do an upset alert on our show each week, and I picked Ole Miss. That was mine for the week. At the time, it was Ole Miss catching 6.5. And I like them in that spot. Kentucky has a really solid defense. There's no doubt about that. I mean, that's what they're built on. They early on had success running the ball against Auburn. Kevin Steele made the adjustments and slowed that down a little bit. The thing that concerns Kentucky fans, and it should be concerning to them, is Terry Wilson is a turnover machine. He turns the ball over and seems to do it at the most inopportune times. And it cost them big last week. I mean, there was a controversial play right before the half where Kentucky looked like, for all intents and purposes, they scored. It went to review, was overturned, and there was really no explanation of why it was overturned. And then Wilson, on the very next play, it was a bad play call by Eddie Graham, frankly, but on the very next play, he rolls to his right and throws an awful interception. Auburn returns it 100 yards for the touchdown, and that gets wiped off the board because of the targeting. It was a crazy sequence of events, but ultimately that interception cost Kentucky 3 to 7 points. And then with the game still in the balance, he had a terrible turnover. They gave Auburn the ball at about the 30, and Auburn drove down and sealed the game with a touchdown. So I think, as deficient as Ole Miss's defense is right now, and maybe the entire season, I do think you're playing a quarterback, though, that has issues turning the ball over. But I think Ole Miss can find points against this Kentucky defense. From what I saw with Ole Miss and Matt Corral last week and Elijah Moore, I like them in this setup today.
Yeah, offensively, Ole Miss looked great. Defensively, Ole Miss looked the opposite of great. They couldn't tackle anybody. They just got outmatched.
They missed 16 tackles, and Neal was shocked it was that few.
I would have bet it was double that number.
Yeah. Well, I think your fear, if you're Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, is that Kentucky will probably realize that they've got one of the best defensive lines in the country, which they do, offensive lines in the country, which they do.
Yeah.
And they will have the ability to just line it up and run it on you and grind you and keep Matt Corral and that offense off the field. That is a game plan that if Kentucky can execute that, and it would look like they can, that will cause trouble for Ole Miss and make me incorrect on my pick. So, I mean, that's the one path to victory to me for Kentucky is if you just realize, look, our quarterback's a turnover machine. He threw 41 times at Auburn. We don't want him throwing that much. Let's just line up and run it and lean on this offensive line. If Kentucky does that could be trouble for Ole Miss. There's no doubt.
Florida starting to break away from South Carolina completely now. That one's no longer a game.
Boy, they've got like Tony right there on that reception. They've got so many options, and Trask is a really good quarterback. That team's a handful, man. I mean, it is very knee-jerk after week one, but I like them in the East right now.
I do too.
Kind of the mess Georgia is at quarterback, and we'll see more with Georgia quarterbacks tonight against Auburn. But boy, Florida looks like the better team.
That's a tough spot for the Georgia quarterback tonight. Neal, did you end up taking Georgia to cover? Were you the only one?
I picked Georgia to cover just because
Landry talked you into it.
Well,
let's be honest.
No, I'd already picked it.
Oh, had you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't like Auburn that much when I watched the replay.
Okay.
What did you not like? I mean, I'm not saying you're incorrect. I'm just curious
I don't know. Nix looked better. I thought Nix was improved. I tell you what it is, Ryan. So much of when I've watched Auburn, and I covered Auburn for 6 years as a beat writer, and then I'll cover them as a columnist, and I'm so used to Auburn having that dominant running game that you can lean on. And so it might just be that the uniform and the team didn't mix in my mind correctly, and I didn't like them. I know that sounds weird, but I think you sort of know what I mean.
Well,
I mean, I covered.
I do. I get it.
I go back to I covered Rudy Johnson and then Carnell Williams and Ronnie Brown and then on and on and on to Trey Mason, and you're just used to Auburn having that back, and you're also used to Auburn being pretty good up front. They didn't strike me as very good up front. They were very adequate up front, and I just kept thinking, oh no, man. I mean, Nix made some good throws, and the Williams kid, is it Seth Williams?
Yep.
He's a beast.
Stud.
Seth Williams is a beast. Yeah.
Stud. If Pitts wasn't in this league, we'd be talking about Williams being the best receiver in the league. He's a stud. But there was something missing, and I don't know. I mean, like you mentioned, Kentucky didn't play a particularly good game, and they were right there with them.
Yeah. It's an interesting matchup to me. I don't disagree with a lot of what you said about Auburn. Running game is a concern. Bo Nix led them in rushing Saturday.
Yeah, and I just didn't like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have that. And they started Sean Shivers, who's quite undersized and just doesn't look like, he's a hard runner, but he's not a 3-down back in the SEC. DJ Williams is the backup that just can't earn the starting job. I mean, he came in last year as a freshman, and a lot of people thought he would take it over, and he got playing time. He just never could earn the starting job. He couldn't earn it in fall camp, and he still hasn't earned it. They've got some, they got a freshman in Tank Bigsby that played very little. Mark Anthony Richards was a sophomore. A lot of people thought he was going to be a factor. He didn't even touch the ball last Saturday. So they've got concerns in the run game. There's no doubt about that. That is a big concern in this game for Auburn because Georgia's already tough enough to run on. And Auburn's got a rebuilt offensive line, pretty much a brand new offensive line, and struggle to run the ball. So, yeah, that's a huge concern for Auburn. But on the flip side of that, I just don't know what Georgia's going to do at quarterback. I mean, David Pollock was heavily hinting in game day today that they're starting Stetson Bennett tonight. And
but that leash has to be awfully short, right?
Yeah, it's got to be. Do you think the other end of the leash is JT Daniels, or do you go back to Mathis?
It's got to be Daniels at least a look, right?
You got to, yeah. I would think you're going to Daniels. You brought him there to play. He's there. He's been cleared. Play.
I don't know why you wouldn't, but I I don't get you starting. He hasn't played a game in 13 months, but you got to break the seal at some point. Do you start him and break the seal, or do you only break the seal if Stetson Bennett struggles, and then now you're breaking the glass in case of emergency? And well, it feels like a tough spot to put him in. So I don't know how you manage this if you're Kirby.
So it made me really wonder, why did the kid from Wake leave?
Yeah, I mean, there were no reports. Let me back up. The speculation was that he had lost the job to DeJuan Mathis.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, having watched DeJuan Mathis week one, I mean, if Jamie Newman lost the job to him, I don't know why Jamie Newman's leaving to prepare for the draft. He ain't getting drafted.
Well, that's my thing. That's my thing, Ryan, because we were watching – we had that game on, and – we were kind of doing some of our post-game stuff, and we had an eye on that game. And if Mathis is the only option that Georgia has, I swear to you, I think they lose to Arkansas Saturday.
Oh yeah. I think Arkansas could have won that game, and I was watching that game, and I never once felt like Arkansas was going to win it. But I don't disagree with you. If Mathis was out, if they could not have changed to Stetson Bennett, Arkansas had every opportunity to win that game. Yeah. Chances are they would have probably melted down and handed it to Georgia somehow at the end.
Yeah.
But it would have been something like a 12-7 win or something crazy like that for Georgia.
Sort of backing up.
They were that
Sorry,
bad.
Go ahead, Ryan.
They were that bad.
Yeah, just backing up 1 second. If Kentucky plays Gatewood today, what's Ole Miss expect from him?
You just didn't get to see a ton of them in Auburn. There were a lot of Auburn fans that were saying, would Gatewood start if he were eligible? I never felt that way against Auburn, that he would have started had he been eligible. I think if Gatewood's playing, that's bad news for Kentucky.
Okay.
I had heard, and the name escapes me, but I had heard the guy that is currently the second teamer was still the second teamer even once Gatewood got cleared. So he might even be.
We lose you, Ryan?
Terry Wilson has turned it over.
There he is. I told you I was worried a little bit about internet connection, so we're. We're back. We're back. They were in our neighborhood. They were putting in the fiber optic cable this week, and so there was a lot of digging, and all the digging makes you so nervous. Because you're like, you guys, please don't mess up connections and stuff, but it says that we're good now. So we had a little hiccup there, but we're okay.
I don't think we completely lost it though, did we?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we're all good.
Okay.
Yeah, the stream's moving.
All right, cool.
Yeah, so it's. I think it's Terry Wilson's job. I was talking to Taylor Zarzer earlier. It'll be on this show here in a little bit, but Taylor was talking about Wilson. It's forgotten that Wilson suffered what they thought was a catastrophic patellar injury. Last year, and this was his first game back, and he was a little not unsure, but you never know until you don't get the confidence back until you play, and so he played, right. And he had some good moments in that game. I think he's their quarterback. I think he's going to be the guy that plays. Gatewood being on the sideline just gives them another option in the event that they have to go to it, but you have to think that. I wrote about this a little bit yesterday. You have to think the fact that he wasn't cleared till Wednesday. He's probably not ready to play much at all. I wouldn't think.
Yeah. Again, and I don't know if I might have dropped lines to this, but it's great news for Ole Miss. I think if you see Gatewood, I think that's tremendous news for the Rebs. So I would not think you see him in that game today. And again, I just didn't see enough of him from Auburn to even tell you what to expect if he played. He just wasn't on the field enough.
If one of these games is interesting in the fourth quarter, which one is it? A&M, Alabama, Arkansas State, and LSU Vanderbilt?
Oh, gosh. I mean, A&M, Alabama at least is two ranked teams, but Alabama's, of course, a 17-point favorite in that one.
Did you see the pictures of Jimbo this morning?
I didn't. What happened?
Jimbo looks rough.
Really?
Jimbo looks the opposite of Kiffin. Like, Kiffin looked like he was ready to walk onto a Hollywood set yesterday.
Right.
Jimbo looked like he was ready to walk onto a used car lot.
Kiffin put the bow tie with it today. He same suit, but added the bow tie today.
Yeah, if you're going to take that suit, you wear it twice. That's good. You got to get your money's worth out of that.
I expect these kind of questions out of Chase with his Texas A&M hate, but not out of you now. I mean, that seems like a low bar.
Yeah.
I was so excited, Ryan, last week. Like, I was giddy. Like, if I could have just gotten one more Vanderbilt score, I mean, made the day. But it was still fine. I'll take the 5-point loss and move on. They looked awful.
3 games, my sense is in those 3 games, LSU bounces back big.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. My sense is LSU makes you forget a little bit of the taste of the Mississippi State game against Vanderbilt. And my sense also is that State probably takes they're not going to throw for 623 again this week. I don't think as bad as Arkansas can be. I think they probably come back down to earth a little bit. They're not going to lose to Arkansas either. I'm having a hard time convincing myself that the Kellen Mond I saw last week can come into Tuscaloosa against an improved Alabama defense and make this interesting. But of the 3 games you've provided me, I'd have to say fourth quarter Alabama A&M would be the closest. Not saying it's in doubt or close, but it's the closest.
I don't want to follow Parham's act of seeing how much I can hate the Aggies, but I catch myself liking I like them less and less every year. And look, people have tried to say, oh, well, they had all eyes towards Alabama. I don't buy that.
No.
I don't buy that.
Either.
It looked to me like Mond had regressed and that they don't have all of the weapons that they're supposed to have. And to me, that gets into this conversation that we can't really have it this year because nobody can afford to do anything to anybody. But it stands to note that Jimbo Fisher was not hired by Ross Bjork.
No.
And they brought him there, Ryan. They brought Jimbo Fisher to Texas A&M to make Texas A&M the second best team in the West and the heir apparent to the post-Nick Saban SEC West. And right now, he's nowhere close to that.
Yeah. You don't guarantee a guy $75 million to be third or fourth in the West. You just don't. And I know it's year 3, but year 3 has been a long time, kind of accepted as that year where you show what you're about, that you show you're taking the next step forward. Or maybe not even the next step forward. That year 3 has been kind of the year where you should have your program established. And this should be a picture of what we can expect from you in your program. And I agree with you. If year 3 that's 3 or 4 losses game SEC schedule, I think some A&M folks start to ask some serious questions. And it may not mean that this year he loses his job, but I do think he probably starts year 4 squarely and firmly on the hot seat.
What about Will Muschamp? Down 21 points right now at Florida. I think it's 21. Is that right? Maybe it's, I don't know, something like that. Yeah, down 21.
They just kicked a field goal. It is 21, yeah.
38-17, Florida has the lead with 28 seconds to go in the third quarter. Obviously, South Carolina has money problems too. Everybody does. Everybody's got money issues in 2020. How hot is Will's seat in 2021 if this continues?
Yeah, it's got to be pretty hot. And, I think your seat's always made hotter if there's an obvious replacement. I don't know that there is for South Carolina. But it just feels like I get the same thing over and over again with them. It just – and listen, they play a really difficult schedule every year. I mean, their in-state opponent is Clemson, who is the best model in college football right now. They get Georgia every year, who is obviously one of the best teams in the country. So, I mean, you start with Georgia and Clemson, and you already know you're fighting an uphill battle. I mean, that's 2 games which now obviously they beat Georgia last year, but that's 2 games that by and large you're going to lose. And then now here comes Florida. It looks like Dan Mullen has Florida headed back in the right direction. So now I got to play them every year. So I think there also has to be a dose of reality as a South Carolina fan that while Steve Spurrier could get me 11 wins 3 straight years, that was a little bit of a different East then. And this East is a resurgent Florida team, a good Georgia team, and all of a sudden now my cross-state rival is one of the best teams in the country year in, year out. So I do think you have to take a dose of reality if you're a South Carolina power broker, but does that mean you have to be a 4-win team? Is 6-6 acceptable? Is 7-5 what I'm going to live with? I don't know what they're willing to live with at South Carolina, but I don't think they're approaching right now what they're willing to live with, because they, year in, year out, are looking more and more like a 4 and 5 win team consistently.
What channel's Texas on? You told me to flip.
I don't know. I just wanted to watch it.
They're on Fox.
Oh, they're on Fox. Okay.
Playing TCU, and
Gotcha.
we had a Lincoln Riley special already this season, and barely avoided a Tom Herman special. We almost had the Tom Herman special, Lincoln Riley special in the same weekend last week.
So
the Tom Herman special looks like it might have held over 1 week.
TCU leads Texas 23-14, 10:33 to go in the third. So there's still some time for Texas to pull this off, but Texas has the football driving there on the TCU 12.
Yeah.
But here's my question. The Pac-12 discovered a miracle today, a medical miracle. They're going to open the season on November the 7th. I think we should first just say hallelujah. We're just finding miracles left and right. The Big Ten starts 3 weeks from today. Oklahoma already has a loss. Texas appears to be as mortal as they've been for years.
Same as always.
Same as always. Yeah. Same song, different dance. And I know it's way too early to get into the whole playoff thingy, but is it looking more and more like this is the year that the SEC gets 2 again?
I mean, the Big 12's got to be worried, especially if Texas drops this game. And then, Oklahoma, by the way, is at Iowa State today, and that is no win for them.
They usually struggle in Ames.
Yeah, and that's a bounce-back game. And I don't know how much you guys watched. I know you guys were working, but the end of that Oklahoma-Kansas State game, Rattler was bad. So here's what if I'm an Oklahoma fan, here's what I fear happened to Oklahoma, is that they're about the same as they have been defensively, which is to say not good.
Yeah.
And they now don't have the quarterback elite enough to overcome that. Definitely with Murray and with Mayfield, they did to a certain extent with Jalen Hurts, not as much as Murray and Mayfield. And it felt like Saturday, and that's one game now, but it felt like they took a little bit of a bigger step backwards at quarterback, I think, than a lot of people thought they were going to. Rattler was bad down the stretch for them. And if they're not elite at quarterback, they cannot survive with the defense they play. They just can't. It does not. Now, look, they'll probably go win this game at Iowa State, but if you told me tonight that Oklahoma comes out of Ames, Iowa 1-2, I am not blown away.
No, I'm not either. At all. And if that's the case, the Big 12's not good enough to send anybody if they have a loss.
Nope. No, because, Texas, I don't know how they came back from dead against Texas. That was remarkable. And if they fall to TCU, if you're the Big 12, you got to feel like you're in some serious trouble playoff-wise.
All right, it's a big moment in this Texas game right here.
Yes, it is.
Texas just kicked a field goal, but TCU jumped off sides on 4th and 7. It's now 4th and 2.
They took the
points off the board, and they're going to go for it here on 4th and 2.
The points off the board, which, by the way, would have made it a one-score game, incidentally.
And he turned out it worked out. Not only that, he scored.
Good play call, because TCU did nothing to equal the number of receivers at the top of the field. It was 3-on-2 up there and turned into a whatever. So.
I think that one gives you an indication of what Tom Herman thinks the rest of this game is going to be like, though. That was a very aggressive move by him, because the field goal would have made it a one-score game. And it ends up he made the right call there. But I think it also shows you what he thinks the rest of this game may look like.
If I'm Lane Kiffin today, I'm not kicking field goals. We're going for it the whole shooting match.
I would agree. Play aggressive. What do you got to lose?
Yeah,
what do you got to lose?
You're not playing for anything other than just
no.
I'm going for it. 4th and 7, throw it. See what happens.
Yeah, stress the defense. Stress the defense and see how they react. I don't the Kentucky defense, not the Ole Miss defense. Stress the Kentucky defense and see how they react to it. I don't disagree with you at all on that.
We mentioned Mississippi State. We mentioned LSU. We didn't mention that game. I am curious to get your thoughts on that one from a week ago. Mississippi State goes down into Baton Rouge, wins 44-34. Mike Leach gets gets a win in his SEC debut. What were your thoughts there, and then what's kind of your thoughts on where those two teams go moving forward?
Well, I was blown away, absolutely blown away. So many things in that game blew me away. Number one, I did not know KJ Costello was that good of a quarterback. I know people said that of him at Stanford, but two things. He did not get rattled. He had some bad turnovers in that game and didn't get rattled. and he put the ball on the money on some of those throws. It wasn't just a product of the system. He was making excellent throws. Number two, State was better defensively than I had anticipated. I didn't know State was going to be that good defensively. And if you look at the scoreboard and you see 34, you got to remember how often that defense gets put out on the field by that offense, and 7 of those were on a pick 6. So they play really good defense, I thought. Number 3, I was blown away at how lost Bo Pelini looked in that game. He never really adjusted.
Yeah.
I mean, they tried to play man the whole game, and they kept getting scorched, and he just kept doing it. And I don't know what Bo Pelini was doing in that game, but he was not making adjustments. That's what I do know. So, and then Ole Miss being that, or excuse me, LSU being that bad offensively early on, it looked like they have regressed back, at least in one game. Now, again, these are knee-jerk reactions, but it looked like in one game they regressed back to the LSU Les Miles offense and don't have the defense to match with it. So all those things in that game were shocking to me.
Is it A&M that has Florida next week? It's not LSU, right? It's A&M has Florida?
I think it's A&M, yeah.
Yeah. Feels A&M.
But LSU's got them soon.
Yeah. LSU's got them soon. Trask, that's 2 throws in a row now where Trask is throwing into traffic. It was funny. I was watching a show on Fox this morning. It was Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart, and they have a segment that's the Heisman Club or whatever, and who's a Heisman candidate and who's not. They actually had both Costello and Trask as early Heisman candidates. I thought, boy, you guys are really bullish on a one-game deal, especially with Costello. I mean, I'm like, I got to tell you, if KJ Costello wins the Heisman, color me just absolutely shocked. I could see how Trask could get there, but he can't make throws like the last 3 that he's made. That one gets picked. That was an awful.
Did he get hit or just?
That was a really bad series for Kyle Trask. Goodness gracious!
I don't know what he was doing. Well, first of all, Florida is up 38-17. Why are they throwing 3 straight times in a series right now? Those are 3 bad throws by Trask. That's for sure. Dan might want to go to the ground game and get that clock working. But boy, that was a bad series. Now his receiver did fall and he had pressure up in his face and couldn't step forward, but that was a bad series for Kyle Trask, no doubt.
Yeah, next week, 3 games kind of stick out to me a little bit. Florida's at A&M, Tennessee's at Georgia, and State's at Kentucky next week. The rest of them are going to be a little more line-heavy in one direction or another.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm watching Tennessee right now go up 35-12, and I'll withhold judgment on Georgia till I see them tonight against Auburn. They could look like a different team. But this Tennessee team right now, Fine would be in that game. I'm bad at guessing things, but the Tennessee team I'm watching today against Missouri, the Georgia team I watched last Saturday, that's a heck of a football game there, I think. And we'll see if the Georgia team this Saturday looks any different. But, yeah, I would say that's definitely an interesting game.
Tennessee's recruited some talent over the years. I mean,
I know.
We make fun of them because it's fun to make fun of them because I think their fans think of them as a national championship caliber program, and they haven't been there in forever. But they have won some recruiting battles here the last few years, and if you coach those guys and you put them in the right place, it stands to reason they're going to be a better team. Week 1, I thought they looked solid, to use Chase's word, and today they look good. Now, it's possible that Missouri sucks. You watched Missouri last week against Alabama, but I just don't know that you can do it at Missouri. I think if you're ranking jobs, that's way down at the bottom. I mean, Vanderbilt's the worst job in the league, but I could make the argument that Missouri's the 13th. The second worst job in the league.
Which tells you how good a coach Gary Pinkel was. I mean,
yeah,
he had him in Atlanta twice. I don't disagree. And I thought of all the hires, I thought the Drinkwitz hire was the biggest stretch at the time. And we'll see what happens to him. Look, they played Alabama a little better than I thought they would. The last touchdown was kind of a garbage time touchdown. When it was Alabama's fresh ones out there, they dominated the game. It was when Alabama started subbing in that Missouri caught a little life. Now, they've switched quarterbacks. They went away from Sean Robinson, and honestly, the kid they've gone to I thought looked better against Alabama. So I'm not surprised that they have made this switch at quarterback. So I don't know. I agree with you. I'm going to withhold on Tennessee because, again, it is just Missouri. But it's a Tennessee team that looks like they got a little life. But there again, if you go back last week and watch Tennessee against South Carolina, Carolina made a ton of just bonehead mistakes in that game that I'm not saying they beat Tennessee without those mistakes, but boy, it certainly helped Tennessee out in that game, and that ended up being a one-possession game at the end.
Drinkowitz was Ole Miss's next choice had Kiffin not taken it, or if he'd gone to Arkansas instead.
What are you talking about working out?
It's not to say that it never works, but when you go to these places that produce, that are just these good, mid-majors is what they call them in basketball. I don't know what to call them in football. And they're just always good. And you hire a guy that's only done it there 1 year, that just feels like a quick hire to me. I mean, I haven't seen him build. I haven't seen him maintain. He took over something to maintain it. And from where Satterfield had built it and hadn't maintained, he hasn't even maintained it. He just did it 1 year. I mean, what have you learned in that 1 year to say, okay, I'm going to hand the keys to an SEC football program to that guy?
Yeah, and I don't like his personality there. Like, I think you can be weird to the media and stuff, but you better have a little reputation to you. All right, here's an interesting spot in this game. It's 38-17, Florida over South Carolina, 4th and 4. Yeah, I was hoping for Will's sake that he would go for it here and not try to kick a field goal, because a field goal doesn't do anything for you. So they're going for it on 4th and 4. And
got it.
Yep, pretty good call.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that Colin Hill quarterback, he's pretty good.
He's okay. He's okay.
I think he's an improvement for them at quarterback over what they had last year. I've been impressed with some of the throws he's made today. Now, Florida's dominated this game by and large, but it's not because of Colin Hill. I think he's played okay for them.
There's a lot of money on the betting line right now. If you
kind of what I was thinking, this thing gets pretty squirrely all of a sudden.
If you had Gators minus 17.5, just hypothetically, of course, if you had not that anyone does that for anything other than recreational purposes, you're a little sweating right now.
You are. You're probably a big fan of Todd Grantham right now.
You
got Gators 17.5.
You'd like to see Grantham.
Stop.
You'd like to see Grantham dial something up here and maybe create.
We had that going in the Ole Miss game last week. The throw into the end zone on the last play would have been a cover for the Rebs.
Well, the Bama Ole Miss game, I don't know why I keep saying Ole Miss. The Bama Missouri game.
Yeah.
That last touchdown Missouri scored, Drinkwitz calls timeout with 4 seconds on the clock to get one more play, put the game over. And I never bet on a game. I mean, I might have a friendly wager, but calling a bookie, I've never done that. They will call the bookie and make a bet. But I am always fascinated by where the line is. And anytime something like that happens, I'm like, I wonder if that affected the line. And I immediately opened the scores and odds.
I know.
See what the over-under was in the Alabama game. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine losing that way.
Another 4th and 1.
I've always wondered if a guy like Nick Saban knows the betting line. He would say that he doesn't know it, but I would wonder if he did know it. I think he got it.
He got it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's close.
Yeah, he did, but barely.
It's close. It's going to depend on how that gets spotted. 11:30 to go there in Gainesville. All that's left in terms of drama is the betting line, and it's enough for us to talk about it for 5 minutes. So it tells you about the power. It tells you about the power of betting lines. All right, so we're closing in on letting you go. What's the atmosphere going to be like in Tuscaloosa today? That's the 2:30 game starting here in a little over half an hour. What's the social distancing portion of it? How are they factoring all that in Tuscaloosa?
Well, I think the speculation was the Strip was going to, because Lord Colin Hill just got killed by Florida defenders.
Yeah.
I think the speculation was the Strip was going to be pretty hot today in Tuscaloosa. They have relaxed the bar guidelines here in the state of Alabama, and I think last call is now 3 a.m.
Oh, 3 a.m. Oh, in Oxford, we're closing this thing down at like 7. Is it 11 now?
It's 11 now.
Were the scraps thrown? Okay, the leadership has allowed the peasants to stay out till 11 now.
Yes, I saw your tweeting on the Board of Aldermen's meeting. That was interesting.
It was a fascinating meeting. I don't know if you know this, but flu season could be bad, and people feel more secure if masks are being worn. They feel secure, Ryan.
Yeah. By the way, for those in the gambling world, South Carolina just scored a touchdown. You may want to pay attention there. anyway, it was 11 o'clock here too, and it just got pushed back to. I think it got pushed back to 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. because the virus is 1 hour weaker. So now you can go all the way to 3 a.m. But I don't know. I've been interested. These crowds haven't been as bad as I thought. Just the limited crowds, the noise. I guess they're piping in some noise. It's going to be a weird atmosphere. I mean, you don't get Alabama games with 20,000 people in them. You just don't. I mean, you guys know this. You've seen it. Alabama takes 20,000 fans on the road.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's going to be a weird look. I've looked at some of the Twitter photos from inside the stadium, and it's crappy. Everybody's like it's an 8A crowd. I'm like, no, Alabama gets bigger 8A crowds. This will be unlike anything we've seen with Alabama football.
Yeah, because for 8A, a lot of the fans that can't get tickets can come to 8A.
Yeah,
and so they come to the game, and it's Alabama comes here next weekend. It's a 5:00 game. I'm absolutely. I guess I use the word fascinated too much, but I am. I'm really interested to see what it feels like because Alabama normally brings a ton of people over here, and they pack the Grove and they go to the game and they pack the restaurants and all of that stuff. And I don't know that they can get tickets. I guess Ole Miss has more tickets available because it's 50% capacity next week.
No, it is not.
Yeah.
It's been switched to 75 in the premium seating, but it's still 25 inside the actual bowl. 50 was only for high school games, not college games.
Ryan and I both have a scientific question for you.
Sure.
Ryan, would you like to ask it or
Yes.
you want me to?
Yeah, I would like to ask it. So the virus cannot afford premium seating. Is that what you're telling me today?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the rule, Ryan, is that a club or a suite would be it goes by restaurant rules in town because it's a seated food area.
Right,
75% in suites and clubs, 25% even in the outside seating for the suite, and then the rest of the entire grandstand or bowl.
So what you're saying, Chase,
if only the virus would increase its donation level, it could have better seating.
it could get in more often. What Chase is saying is the virus can get tricked into thinking that those suites are restaurants, and it knows that in the restaurants.
Absolutely.
It knows in the restaurants that if you stand, it can get you, but if you sit, it can't.
Right.
No, Ron, as I said, and you might have heard this, the state increased, the state increased high school attendance to 50%, but kept college attendance at 25%.
Oh, because the virus is older now. I mean, that's what you got to understand, Chase. The virus has graduated high school.
Are there more rules for the virus or rules for the NCAA?
The instruction manual
is
or whatever?
the NCAA handbook or the virus rules? Which one is a bigger, more voluminous thing? Because I'm fast getting confused on what is and isn't allowed.
That's a great question. I guess we're just used to the NCAA rules being confusing. We're so new with the virus now that I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know which one is more confusing. I don't know how to handle the NCAA rules or the virus, either one. I think because I was under the impression the virus was really smart. There were certain crowds this summer that the virus didn't attack like it did other large crowds. And I thought it was much smarter than this, but clearly I was incorrect in that judgment.
Maybe the virus has Alzheimer's.
It could. Well, it shows it's late in life, so that's good for us.
Maybe it's just, late onset dementia.
Yeah. Well, we can all hope for that.
We can. Hey, enjoy the football. Thanks so much for the visit. We really appreciate it.
All right, boys. Y'all have a good Saturday.
Later on.
All right, you too. That was Ryan Brown, WJOX in Birmingham. You grow weary of the virus jokes.
No, I'm good.
I don't know that I ever get tired of them.
Do you not?
No, I find the jokes to be great. I need to get rid of I don't want people calling the hotline. No,
Let's not.
Not now.
Yeah.
You can purchase from our shop, though. It's mpw-digital.myshopify.com. Got it up on the site.
Yes.
We got some stuff. We got some pullovers,
quarter
zips,
new caps. Got hoodies coming soon. That's the next thing.
Oh, good.
Got a couple of our other offerings for the females as well. So that's kind of what we got coming up down the pipe. I know it's an hour out, but I've got a couple videos. There is no one in Lexington. When I say no crowd, I mean No one.
Of course, it's still an hour away.
No, that's what I said. I gave that thing, but it's like milling around or nothing. Like it's empty up there right now.
But they can only have 20%. Is it 20% there?
I don't know. Is that what it is?
I'm not positive, but I think so. I was catching up Carson's soccer team, sorry.
Oh, they're playing right now?
Yeah. Well, they won. They played a team from North Louisiana, so it was a big game in our house today.
Oh.
I was getting the scouting report on how the team did, and then more importantly, how number 4 did.
How'd he do?
Was told that he played really hard, really hustled. So that's good.
Okay.
Carson has a tendency at times to be a little tentative. He's playing up 2 years, and so he's playing kids bigger than him. And sometimes I think in his head he
gives in a little too much.
Defers a little.
Somebody asking, do we have straight-up sweatshirts? I have not even thought about any type of crew neck sweatshirt. I can look into it, but as of now, that is not something I have designed and in the pipeline ready to go. Leif says 12,000 are allowed in Commonwealth Stadium.
Okay. It's 20.
And again, hour out, but there's about 300 in there right now. So,
yeah, everything's a neutral site game.
Yeah, who can bring energy? Who can find some way to sustain it? Even like what does it look like after those first 2 or 3 series, and where do you kind of go from there? But it's pretty empty. So anyway,
someone asked what the 3 guys were. That's the Rogue. We're brought to you by the Rogue. The Rogue's your destination for fine men's clothing. Their stylist hand-select pieces from top designers, from work to lifestyle to nightlife. There's the perfect something for everyone. The Rogue has all the best items from Peter Millar, Martin Dingman, Jack Victor, Halsey, True Grit, and more. The Rogue has delivered fine men's clothing for more than 53 years. Their classic style, attention to detail, and commitment to excellent service continues to make The Rogue a special place to shop. Visit The Rogue at 4450 I-55 North in Jackson or at therogue.com. You can also reach them at 601-362-6383 or email them info at therogue.com. We'll have Chase modeling his Blue Delta jeans. He has the powder blue on today. I've got the denim. You'll see those a little later in the day. We'll talk to them. Don't forget, you can find out more about Blue Delta Jeans by hitting them up on social media or emailing them at info at bluedeltajeans.com. We have who's our food for the day?
We got stuff coming from Funky's. They have a new oven. We're gonna take advantage of that. Got some pizza. Got some buffalo chicken nachos. Got some more stuff. So we'll have Haley grab that. We'll have that in around halftime. That's brought to you by Visit Oxford. Visit oxfordms.com. You go to the events page. See everything there is every single week in town, whether you live here or you're just coming in for events. Obviously, Ole Miss and Alabama next Saturday, 5 o'clock start for that one. The double-decker bus will be out in Oxford from 3 to 4. You can be around that as well as on campus on Saturday morning. So it's kind of what's going on with them. So, yeah, we'll do that here in a little bit. Funky's also one of the places that has the outdoor dining set up. Lee's done a nice job building a little deck area there where people have tables and stuff set out for outdoor dining if you so wish. So
I'm getting Jeff Drummond on now. We'll get the scene there in Kentucky, in Lexington, find out a little bit about the Cats. We won't keep him long. We'll just kind of get a little scene setter talking about the Wildcats. They are 0-1 as well. Both teams looking for their first win of the season today. Ole Miss and Kentucky in about an hour. So this is Jeff Drummond. He is the publisher of CatsIllustrated.com, the covers Rivals, with Rivals.com, covers the Wildcats.
Hello.
Hey, Jeff. Neal McCready, Chase Parham with you. How are you?
Hey, pretty good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. I won't keep you super long. Just kind of curious a little bit. We're watching, obviously, Ole Miss opened at home last week against Florida. There was 25% capacity, and, you see a different look to a stadium. We've seen some pictures inside of Kroger Field, and it's still an hour out. Not many people there. What's kind of what are you expecting in terms of atmosphere, the scene? What's the crowd going to be like, that kind of thing?
That's a great question, because right now I could give you an attendance if you had long enough for me to count it. It's under 100 at this point, I would say, just for people I can see in the stadium. So it's going to be real interesting to see how many wind up in here. But it couldn't be, it could not be a better day in Lexington for football. That's the biggest shame of it is if this was a normal home opener, this would be an absolutely drop-dead gorgeous night for football.
What is the temperature there right now?
It is about 64 and sunny, just got some lazy clouds, non-threatening clouds floating about. It's perfection for football.
What's the thought there going into this game? I know it was probably a little bit of a disappointing performance for Kentucky at Auburn last week. What's kind of the feeling about this particular team?
Well, it's interesting now that the view has changed a little bit, I think, from the preseason. A lot of people in this area in particular probably had this one circled in the win column, and they knew that, Ole Miss was going to be coming in with a new coach and kind of rebuilding to some extent. I don't know if that's the exact word you would use, but there was a lot of confidence about it. I think Auburn took a bite out of that. Most people here expected them to win that game last week. And they saw what happened there. So the fans in particular have been knocked back, I think, and not quite as much swagger as they had 7 days ago. But I think the team is still in a pretty good place. As far as we can tell from our interviews this week, they feel like they made a lot of self-inflicted mistakes against Auburn. They were in position to win. They really controlled most of the stat categories when you look at back at that game. And see the yardage and the time of possession and stuff like that, but you can't, turn the ball over 3 times and have a fourth turnover on a bad call for a fake punt.
Terry Wilson's first game back after that injury. What did you think of his game? I know the ball security was an issue for him, but what did you think of him as in terms of his health, in terms of how he played? And then I'm curious, going into today's game, I'm going to guess that Kentucky would like to have a lot more run and a lot less pass against Ole Miss.
Yeah, that would be my guess to address that first. I think you're going to see them run, and run some more in this one today. I was a little bit surprised that for the first game back with Terry Wilson, they let him pass 37 times and actually threw a 38th with another player. That was way too much, and I think they kind of maybe outsmarted themselves a little bit with some of that plan. But Terry Wilson did a lot of encouraging things from athletic and health standpoint. He looked like his old self in those regards. I think people are real down about the ball security, which has been an issue from time to time with him. Fumbles are a bigger issue than interceptions with Terry, and he's just got to do a much better job when he does decide to pull it down and keep it. But decision making too, he made a couple of throws late that he would like to have back from that one. But overall, I think they were pleased with what they can do with him potentially moving forward.
People generally pretty happy with Mark Stoops, I'm guessing. I mean, he's taken Kentucky football, which used to be sort of an afterthought, and he's made them a viable program, not a contender in the East necessarily, but certainly a viable program year in and year out. I would think that given how basketball crazy it is up there, they're pretty pleased with that. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, that's in general, I think that's accurate. And, 5 years ago, it was a little bit on the edge as to, what people thought about him in the future, but that he's turned that thing completely around now, and he's kind of entering that period you see with a lot of coaches where people want to see that next step now. And you mentioned challenging in the East. They've been knocking on the door a bit. They had a game against Georgia, I think 2 years ago, that determined, who the East winner would be. But that gap really hasn't been narrowed between them and the very top just yet. So they want to see another step forward. They want to see, Kentucky's eventually got to find a way to beat Georgia to get there. And, teams like Tennessee and Florida seem to be turning around and kind of getting headed in the right direction. So it's only going to get more difficult from this point forward.
I'm assuming you mentioned Terry Wilson and stuff, but I mean, what does the rest of that depth chart look like with the whole Gatewood thing and all that over the course of the week?
As expected, they're being a little bit coy with that. I think you're going to see Gatewood in a couple of series today, maybe as a change of pace guy, and maybe some wildcat, maybe down around the goal line. Stuff that suits his physical stature and power running style. But people tell us that Bo Allen, the other guy that's in that mix on the depth chart, has really kind of been the number 2 guy through camp as far as a traditional quarterback is concerned.
Terry Wilson completed most of his passes inside 10 yards last week. I know he threw way too much. I think even 10 of the catches were on kind of against the blitz and stuff behind the line of scrimmage. How much of their game is to stress the defense at all? I mean, do they kind of pick spots down the field? I know Ali had a few thrown to him the other day, but from an Ole Miss defensive back standpoint, they do struggle at times in some areas. How is Kentucky capable of exposing that?
Well, I think that remains a big question mark. It was like our number 1 question on the offensive side of the ball coming in to the season, even more so than how Terry Wilson would back up, is do they have playmakers at wide receiver outside of Josh Ali, who's a clear-cut number 1 guy. They need some complementary pieces to make some plays down the field. And if they can't do it today against this defense that gave up a lot of plays down the field last week, I think that would be a big red flag for Kentucky.
I'm curious, what are you hearing about basketball there? I know obviously they can fill up Rupp 100 times over. What are you hearing as of today about like attendance and that kind of thing for Kentucky hoops?
Well, they haven't really revealed a whole lot yet. I think that it's so far away in terms of knowing what to expect with the virus and how it's going to look when it gets colder and into November, that they've been cautious about, stating exactly what their plan is going to be as far as that's concerned. But I do think we'll see some situations where they may try to create some kind of miniature NBA bubble type deals and get maybe 3 or 4 teams in one place at one time where they can kind of control it. And if they can get any fans at all, I think that would be a positive at this point. But I don't know how optimistic I would be, given that things seem to be kind of popping up again on us.
I would think the NBA Finals are quite the advertisement for Cal's team, right? I mean, once again, he's just you look at both teams, yeah. It's dotted with Kentucky guys. I mean, obviously AD on the Lakers, but Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo and all of that with Kentucky, I would think that he's watching this and saying this is a recruiting advertisement night in, night out.
Yeah, it has to be. As much as those guys have been talked about during the run, especially the guys with the Heat, because everybody knows about AD and how good he is. But Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo just have gone from guys that I kind of envisioned being good, solid career players in the NBA to on the verge of superstardom. And I don't know if anybody had that quite pegged going into the season. So it's a huge advertisement for Coach Cal. You get the double-edged sword of that around here too, with some fans saying, well, why isn't he winning more? If he's got all these NBA stars, it'd be great to have these guys, 2 or 3 years down the road from when they leave Kentucky. If they were playing back in the old days like they were juniors and seniors, it would be a sight to behold. But unfortunately, it's a kind of different day and time for us in college basketball.
So we'll let you go here. We'll get back to the football game real quick. Just kind of your thoughts. What, in your mind, what are the keys to today's game, and do you kind of have a gut feeling as to how it goes?
Yeah, my gut is that Kentucky tries to lean on that offensive line. They feel like they're the best O-line in the country, and really get behind them and run. It'll kind of be the formula they had last season, minus the Wildcat quarterback. And just kind of control this clock and keep that Ole Miss offense on the sideline. If they can do that, hold on to the football. Obviously in any game you don't want turnovers, and convert those red zone opportunities. I think they feel confident that they should win this game. But if any of those, don't go as they hope, they know that this team they're facing can put up a ton of points and make it really hard on them.
Well, Jeff, thanks so much for the time. Enjoy the game and stay safe. We'll talk to you soon, I hope.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Jeff Drummond. He covers Kentucky for Rivals.com, kind enough to spend some time with us here on game day. I guess it's 2:14. I can't remember exactly how long this interview is, so we'll
play Taylor now.
We'll play Taylor. Taylor Zarzer is my longtime friend. He and I did radio together down in Mobile back ages ago. Been friends ever since. Taylor is in Charlotte now. Big part of the golf coverage, kind of nationally. Is one of the lead golf studio hosts really in the country, and we did not talk much golf. Well, I was really interested in what today's broadcast will be like for him. So you'll see some of that. You'll hear him talk about that. He spent some time Zooming yesterday with Lane Kiffin, with some different Ole Miss guys, that kind of thing. So I think this will work. I'm a little nervous about it, but we're going to give it a shot. This is Taylor Zarzer with SEC Network, who will be calling today's Ole Miss Kentucky game. My longtime friend Taylor Zarzer will be calling Ole Miss at Kentucky today, the game in Lexington. I'm not in Lexington, and he's not either. It's a whole new world, isn't it, bud?
It really is, man. I mean, at least we're getting to call the game. And I'm sure, like you, there was a time where I didn't think that was going to happen a couple of months ago. And I think even in August, when the Big Ten and Pac-12 initially announced that they weren't going to play in the fall, I think a lot of us thought that meant all of college football was in serious jeopardy.
And it was.
And as we sit here 6 weeks later, the fact that we're going to call a college football game today is terrific. I went to South Carolina last weekend, Neal, because I'm only an hour and a half from there, living in Charlotte, and it was great to be back in the stadium. But there are so many challenges. I'm amazed at how hard our crews are working to get these games on. I don't know. Okay, I actually do know. You weren't watching any golf over the summer, but
I watched a little.
To fill you in, Jim Nance was at the broadcast where the tournament was. Nick Faldo and the other announcers were in a studio in Orlando. You had statisticians overseas in California and all over the country. And I thought, wow, man, I can't imagine that. Well, now I can. I'm in my house. Stinch is in his house today. We have Taylor McGregor, who will do the sidelines for us. I'm sure you know who she is, a Cubs broadcaster.
Yeah.
She's doing the sidelines today, and so she's there. We've got what usually would be our truck is operating from the school room that they use for broadcasting in Lexington, not in the truck because they're too close to each other in the truck. And then you have a bunch of other people, statisticians, spotters that are spread out all over the country. It's crazy. So if it takes me a few extra seconds to tell you where John Rice Plumlee is lining up on every play, please understand that there are a few challenges.
So what is I'm not asking you to show me, but what is the setup like? Is it I watched, like I've seen, you know me, I'm a Cubs junkie. So I watched all the Cubs broadcast, and I would see the kind of their setup when the Cubs were not at Wrigley. The announcers were still at Wrigley, and they would, like the Braves announcers would be at SunTrust and stuff. And they had a lot of different feeds and things. I assume you've got multiple feeds there in your quote studio.
Yeah. And I'm showing you right now, but on this computer right here, they're going to give me access to every camera we have on the grounds, and then I can slide it up to the monitor, and I can put whatever I want on the big screen. What I'll put is the program feed, which is the feed that you're getting at home. That's what I'll put on the big screen, and then on the smaller screen, I'll have the all 22, and then I'll have an ISO where my producer can show me something and say, hey, man, I'm going to show you this probably on the next play. Might be a video of Lane Kiffin, or it might be, some shot of DJ Durkin or something. And hey, after this play, I'm going to show you this, so you can see DJ Durkin and what he's doing, calling the plays, et cetera. So I'll have that set up. I'll have a screen of Stinch as well, so that we can see each other throughout the broadcast today. My stats guy who lives in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, will be on his own Zoom, and he'll be showing me, Ole Miss was 4 of 8 in the red zone last week. They're 2 of 2 today, that sort of thing. My spotter is in the booth in Lexington.
Okay.
And they have this thing called an Elmo cam that's shining on his board, and he's going to be pointing at Matt Corral at quarterback. John Rice Plumlee is lining up at tailback, and then the next play is lining up at wide receiver. Like, he has a way to communicate that to me. But there are a lot of moving parts, and there's no question that and by the way, Lexington has my favorite booth in the SEC. I mean, it's massive how big the TV booth is, and I really miss it. I mean, because we're all right there together, and you don't have to have all this, a virtual interaction. You can do it in the same place. So
ESPN just decided it was too much of a risk. SEC Network decided it was too much of a risk. I mean, could you guys not have? I mean, I'm not questioning the way they do it. I'm with you. I'm just glad there's football. Could you not have gotten there and tested, and they know that both of you are negative and that kind of thing?
I think that it's just they're trying to be really smart about this as they restart the seasons. And I think, and I completely support it. I really do. I think that the first few weeks they want to make sure they're really smart about this. The SEC, knock on wood, has had very little issue so far, unlike every other conference. They've had very little issue. And I think especially, with some of these crews, they're trying to be smart about it. We only have 3 or 4 crews out of 26 that are traveling for ESPN right now. Herbie and Fowler, although, Herbie obviously had some sort of contact last week, so he stayed home for Miami FSU and called it from his house while Fowler was at the game. But it's impacted all the crews. But I'm amazed at how everybody, at least that I've interacted with, has said, we've just got to make sure we communicate even better than ever, to prepare for these games. And I think we've got a really good football game to talk about.
I do too. So I was going to go with it. Normally you would get to the site on Friday. You'd meet with the coaches. You'd meet with the home team first, I think, typically how that works. And then the other team got in, and you'd go meet with them at the hotel. You'd get some time with the coaches and stuff. You obviously aren't there. So I assume that you just did a lot of Zooms with the Kentucky staff, with the Ole Miss staff this week?
Yeah, and we did it on Friday. We kept the same schedule, and that wasn't that big of a disruption. I always would prefer to be in person just because it's just more relaxed, and people are much more comfortable when you're in the same place. But I've done 1,000 Kentucky games, it feels like, in the last few years. So, Mark Stoops and our crew and Stinch and I know each other extremely well. So that wasn't much of a loss. Eddie Grand, obviously I've talked to him so often. We did. We talked to him yesterday morning, and then we talked to Lane last night. We talked to Jeff Levy, and then also talked to Chris Partridge as well. We talked to Jacquez Jones and to Jerrion Ely last night as well, and got a lot of they were all great. I was really impressed with Jones, and we had a great conversation with him. But that part of the schedule has not been disrupted very much.
Give me your thoughts on Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. You go back a ways. You knew him when he was in the league at Alabama as the offensive coordinator. What are your thoughts on him at Ole Miss? What was his demeanor last night? Not really about the game, but about his program.
I know that he has a lot of viral moments in his life, but 99% of the time, he's a pretty subdued guy. He's pretty chill, laid-back guy, and he loves to bust chops, and he certainly was busting mine because I'm not there in Lexington last night. We talked. This is the first time we talked in a while. He used to come on the SiriusXM show we did every single week, but I think this is going to work. I really do. I don't know if the Pirate being down the street alters my thoughts on how successful it's going to be, but I love what he said last night. us. We would have lost. We would have lost by a field goal, and we would have lost the game, and we wouldn't have been impressive, and no one would have said anything. Instead, we lost by 16 points, and everybody's like, holy cow, look at all of the numbers that Lane Kiffin's offense put up against Florida, and one of the best defensive coordinators in Grantham, and look what they did. He said, look, I'm not pleased at all with the way we played defensively and don't like the way we played in the red zone, but it got people talking. And he said at a place like Ole Miss, you have to get people talking. He's like, I'm not saying we have to be Oregon, but we have to get people talking. He can't specifically talk about recruiting, but he can say that it's been a great week. And he went on at length about how, because of the way they played last week, it's been a great week in recruiting. You would know far more about that than I would.
Yeah, and they're about to have it's about to get even better, I think. They're about to – he can't talk about it. I can. They're about to land a 4-star quarterback from Starkville that is a big-time player.
Yeah, and I think that it makes a lot of sense why they decided to do this. I think the big key is, can Lane have control of his life, of his program, of all of the things it takes to be a successful head coach for years to come? I have little doubt that he knows what it takes to and what it takes to call a successful game, where to put the pieces on the field. I think he is brilliant when it comes to calling the football game. But I think that the big key for him, and I think he would say the same thing, is consistently being the kind of head coach you need to be in the Southeastern Conference without having many distractions and not getting in his own way. I think that'll be the big key. And then I think the other thing is when Hugh Freeze, I think to a degree, certainly dealt with this too, is when you call when you're playing so fast and your offense is putting up these types of numbers, it puts a lot of strain on your defense. And so I think that's the other key. Now, despite all of the things that DJ Durkin has had to deal with on the field and off the field in the last few years, you won't find one person in college football that doesn't think this is one of the best defensive coordinators there is. I had a conversation with a couple guys at Michigan this week who just think that, he's truly one of the best defensive minds in the country. So they're certainly not there yet, but it was interesting what Chris Partridge said to us yesterday. He said, this may sound ridiculous. He said, but we did a really good job of lining up last week, which means that our guys understand conceptually what we're trying to do. He's like, they're not aggressive enough. They didn't tackle well. They didn't perform well once the ball was snapped, but they did line up in the right place. And honestly, Neal, I've watched a good bit of Ole Miss football in the last few years.
I know.
They have never lined up.
Well, and you know this because you talked to both staffs. Both teams are trying to win the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Florida was trying to win the game too. And so sometimes you just have to look at it. And there were some times, and I went back and watched the Ole Miss Florida game. There were some moments where Ole Miss was there to defend the play. The better athlete won the play. So it comes back to recruiting. And you're right about Durkin, by the way. If you talk to people in the business, and you know a lot of them too, they'll tell you that DJ Durkin was building a power at Maryland before the tragedy happened, and it got derailed the way that it did. I'm not diving into that. I'm just saying that's what was happening. He was recruiting at Maryland at a really high level, and they were going to be a factor in the Big Ten before everything fell apart. Well, he learned from that. He's still the same guy. I think he's a tremendous resource for Kiffin. I don't know how long Ole Miss can keep DJ Durkin around, but while he's here, he's a real resource for Lane, for the program, for recruiting the kind of defensive players you want to bring in. Partridge is a great recruiter. These guys haven't been able to recruit in person because of COVID. They've had the dead period. They lost the spring. They lost all that stuff. I'm with you. I think this is – I've said this for years. I used to do it almost as a joke, but I would say hire Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. Why not? But the more you thought about it, the more I was like, that it makes a lot of sense. There's nothing to lose. And, how well it works and all of that stuff, we'll see. But I think he's going to work. I think he's going to win at Ole Miss. I do.
Yeah, and I think what you said about Durkin leaving is a reality. I think that whether it happens after this year or happens after next year, I think it's not going to be long for him in Oxford, which I think is why it was important to bring in Partridge, who had all of this experience working underneath Durkin and then most recently working underneath Don Brown. This guy has been a sponge under those guys, and you would think that unless Partridge goes with wherever Durkin goes, he would have an opportunity to really be the guy on defense in years to come. I don't – having said all of this, I don't know that Ole Miss fans should expect their team to win more than maybe 4 games this year in a conference-only brutal schedule. But I don't know how much that matters. I know that Ole Miss fans are tired of having these below mediocre records on an annual basis after going to the New Year's Six for a couple of years in a row. But I don't think it's going to be long before Ole Miss is winning 8, 9, 10 games again with Lane Kiffin as their football coach, given the way that he's going to recruit. Again, and that's what Lane said. Lane doesn't want to lose, but more important than winning and losing is creating an identity this year. And if that means they go 4-6, so be it.
Last couple minutes I have here with you, and really appreciate the time on what I know is a busy day. Just your thoughts on the matchup today, Ole Miss and Kentucky.
Yeah, I think that the big key in the game is Kentucky and ball security, because they are, in my opinion, significantly better than Ole Miss at the line of scrimmage. They have one of the best offensive lines in the country, and they have a really good defense that takes away the run. They took it away from Auburn. I think they should be able to do a good job against Ole Miss taking it away. So I think Ole Miss has got to force some turnovers. Wilson was pretty careless with the ball last week. He didn't show any ill effects against Auburn from the patellar tendon injury, Neal, that he had last year that was so gruesome. And I don't think he surprised himself, but I think he was so excited being out there and realizing I'm me again that he tried to do too much a couple different situations. So I would think that Eddie Gran, who is one of the best running game coaches you'll ever see, who, of course, had so much success with Deuce back in the day and at Auburn.
That's at Auburn, yeah.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And then Benny Snell a couple of years ago. And then he had this – I mean, when Wilson got hurt last year, I think every person that follows SEC football would have said Kentucky's going to have a losing record.
Yeah.
And for them to decide to put their best player at quarterback and figure things out the way they did, he deserves a lot of that credit. He's going to do this today. He's going to say, I am going to run the football down Ole Miss's throat, and it's not going to be creative. It's going to be old school smash mouth football, and until Ole Miss's players can figure out how to stop it, we're going to keep doing it. And then if they take it away, then I'm going to throw something at them that they've never seen before. So to me, that's the key to the game. Can Ole Miss create a turnover, get Kentucky off schedule, and make them do something they're uncomfortable doing, which is Terry Wilson having to depend on his arm. If that happens, then Ole Miss can win the game. I think that Ole Miss is certainly going to be successful moving the football against Kentucky and everybody that they play, but especially when they get in the red zone with an inexperienced offensive line that's not comfortable going this fast, I think that you're still going to have some warts to deal with early in the season. So I think the whole key today is Ole Miss winning the turnover battle.
Plumlee's all over the field today. Is that what you're
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're hearing.
Oh, yeah.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think they want him to be Taysom Hill. I think they want him to – they think he is a great pass catcher. Obviously, he's a baseball player that can run all over the place and is so quick, and everybody has seen that. But I think that, yeah, they want to confuse Kentucky's defense and try to make him probably a decoy more than anything today. But, yeah, he's going to line up all over the place. And I also I'm interested, Neal, to see if we see this kid, Henry Parrish, if they have any kind of package or two for him, because I know the coaches have been raving about him. So might be another guy to watch out for.
Yeah, they raved about him throughout preseason, and I think he kind of had some kind of a minor injury week 1, and he just played special teams. I kind of expected him to play a big role against Florida, and he didn't. But yeah, they've been raving about him the whole time. Well, hey, man, I know you're busy. I'm going to let you go. Really appreciate it. I hope Betsy and the family are doing well. Please tell everybody that I said hello. Tell your mom I said hi when you talk to her next time, too.
I will do it, my friend. Best to the McCreadys as well. Hopefully Campbell McCready's Razorbacks will win a football game at some point.
If they do, I'm not sure she'll know it. So it really won't matter. But no, you'll laugh. She said, yes, someone called. We were at a party, and someone called and said that we were ahead in the third quarter. And she goes,
against Georgia.
Yeah, she goes, we were going to turn it on, and then someone said, well, it's over. And I was like, okay. And so we're having this conversation because she's doing this. Yeah. We have this bit that we do every week. She and Greg Jones.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was talking to her before Greg got on the Zoom, and I said, she goes, so is this Trask, is he good? And I said, yeah, he's really good. I said, he's the one that beat out Felipe Franks. And I figured she would know who that was. And she goes, who's Felipe Franks? And I said, he's your quarterback, but never mind. Just have fun.
It just doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, last weekend I'm so fired up to do the South Carolina-Tennessee game, prime time. It turned into the game of the night in college football. And one of my daughter, Grace, who's 14, one of her buddies says, hey, your dad's on TV. And she said, oh, I thought he was doing some kind of radio show today. That's just – hey, listen, man, that's just the way it works. That's all right.
It's funny how people like you and me grew up massive sports fans and our kids just don't. Yeah. Just not in it. Yeah. All right. Hey, buddy, enjoy the broadcast. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, pal.
That was Taylor Zarzer, kind enough to spend some time with us. Earlier today, as you can see, I was wearing different clothes. I just come home from the gym. I got Taylor on the Zoom. That was cool. He couldn't have done it live because he's doing pre-production stuff right now. So it is 2:36, about 24 minutes before kickoff or so. Alabama taking the field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Alabama and Texas A&M, they're about to get started. Tennessee, winner over Missouri. I didn't see a final. Did you see it?
No, I did not.
And South Carolina lost to Florida by 14. So South Carolina covered the line. That's all that really mattered.
35-12 Volunteers.
So Tennessee covers the line there. So I'm 1-1 for the day. Greg Jones 1-1 for the day. And Campbell McCready 1-1 for the day. You're 1-1 for the day. Everybody's 1-1 for the day right now.
Nobody believed in Boom.
Yeah.
You gave up on Boom, and you see what happens.
I have such a love-hate relationship with Boom that it's kind of hard to describe. What's the Texas score? Let's see. I had it up a minute ago too.
Yeah, Edlinger has 4 touchdowns, so they scored at least 28.
Pulling that up there on a commercial break there in Austin. So we got about 15. 20 minutes, not 20, 15 minutes or so. If you guys want to call, we'll take your call here on the Rafters Music and Food Hotline. If you're looking for a place to watch some sports today, Rafters would be a great place to go. Rafters Music and Food on the Square in Oxford. Drink specials, great appetizers, burgers, po' boys, sandwiches, and more. Be a great place if you're watching Ole Miss Kentucky and watching the games later tonight. Rafters would be a great place to spend your evening.
662-259-0991, 662-259-0991. Phone lines are open.
Yep, phone lines are open. If anybody wants to call, we can take your call. We'll talk a little football. We got, like I said, there's a call right there, probably about 15 minutes or so from right here. We'll shut it down. Hey, caller, who do we have? Hey, who do we got?
Hey, Neal, what's going on? It's Lee in Navarre. How you doing, brother?
Hey, Lee, what's up, man?
Hey, man, just down here waiting to watch the Rebs kick off. What is the score prediction? I have not heard.
I have Kentucky by 1. I've got Ole Miss covering the line. I'm a little worried about Kentucky's running game if I'm Ole Miss, but I'm expecting a really competitive game. I think, Chase, you picked Ole Miss.
Jeffrey, Zach, and I all picked Ole Miss to win, I'm pretty sure.
I think that's right.
So the defending champion picked Kentucky to win, but everybody else has Ole Miss victorious today.
Yeah, Rebs did all right last time in Lexington. What is the deal with Otis Reese? Did he travel? I'm sorry, I've been on a.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. We it's been almost an hour and a half since we talked about it. So that's fine. My understanding is that nothing has changed. I asked about it just this afternoon with someone on the ground in Lexington, and if I'm to take them at their word, and I pretty much do, that means that he did not travel, and obviously if he didn't travel, he won't play. I know there's a rumor that he's been cleared and will play, but I think, as Chase said earlier in the broadcast, I think that is the SEC network in their pregame show not understanding that while the league cleared him and the SEC absolutely did clear him to play, the NCAA has not yet cleared him.
Okay. All right. Hey, and the merch shipped the other day, is that the rumor? The merch went out?
The merch, the pre-sale ended yesterday, and everything started being processed, so it should be there very, very soon.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for all you do, man. Really enjoy the show. Y'all have a good day.
Yeah, thanks for calling, Lee. Enjoy your day. People excited about the merch, man.
Excited about the merch.
Yep.
Yeah, pullovers, caps. A lot of stuff. More stuff coming. Some gimmick stuff coming. Some special edition stuff coming.
Yeah.
So get it to you.
A&M gets a first down on their opening possession.
Upset coming.
I will say this, and you and I talked about it just then before while we were watching the end of my interview with Taylor. There's only one look you can make work with maroon.
It's white.
And it's this. It's as an accent piece with white. I don't mind the maroon helmet. This is a good uniform look for Texas A&M.
Reading from the stream here, Pocket Watch says, sorry, I'm sad I missed the merch. You did not miss the merch. mpw-digital.myspotify.com.
Yeah, you can still get merch. Hey, who do we have?
Hey, boys, how you doing?
What's up, Bubba?
Just a long day. Just came in and sitting down. Was out just kind of walking the dogs, letting them play around. Miller's doing all right. Just talked to my daddy, and he had to tell me how great Tennessee was now.
They were good. Tennessee. The Vols looked back today, and that was Missouri, but Vols off to a 2-0 start, and they look impressive so far. Got to give them credit where credit's due.
There was some breakdowns this morning in Tippah County, Bubba. Sorry.
Yeah, we had two of them. I had to go out. That's why I was a little late coming back, but just the same old thing. So, but yeah, he told me riding back. He said we look like we're 98 again. I told him he's a little senile, but anyway. So, yeah. But he said he's going to try to call in himself. He didn't have the number, but anyway. But that's really all that's going on. A little sitting here, sat down, gonna crack open a couple of beers, watch our Rebels play, and do that. How do you
feel? What's your last couple of minutes here before they get started? What are your thoughts about Ole Miss Kentucky? You still feel good about it?
I feel good about it. So hopefully it goes off right.
All right, Bubba. Enjoy the game. We'll talk to you tonight, I hope.
Thank you, boys. Have a good evening.
You too.
Later. A&M moving the ball right here on the Tide.
A&M absolutely moving the football. Called a timeout already, though. Jimbo having to burn a timeout with just over 2 minutes into the contest. You never want to do that.
Reading from the line there, or from the stream, Brandon, if Ole Miss does not sign Arch Manning, I do not believe it has anything to do with a feud between Lane Kiffin and the Manning family at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
That will not be a hindrance to the situation.
I don't get the impression that that's a deal anymore. Whatever it was
appears to be repaired.
Whatever it was resolved.
Yeah. Kid did look good in those highlights the other day, though.
He did. He looked awfully good.
For a sophomore, he was spinning it.
Yeah. Zach and I talked about this a little bit on the soft verbal. People make the Peyton comparison a little more agile than Peyton was at that age. I saw Peyton play as a high school senior.
Oh, do you think Arch moves around better?
A little more fluid with his movements. Peyton sometimes was kind of herky-jerky. Don't get me wrong, Peyton's a superstar. one of the 5 best quarterbacks to ever play the game, but he reminds me more of Eli than he does Peyton, just watching him play. But he's more athletic than – looks like he's more athletic than Eli was. Hey, who do we have?
He's in the line there.
Hey, who do we have?
This is Jeff from Belmont.
Two?
Jeff.
Hey, Jeff. What's up, man?
Not much. Just got done grilling a little bit, getting ready to watch the Rebels play.
What's on the grill?
I cooked little steaks, some ribeyes and T-bones.
Okay. Sounds good.
What do you put on them? We doing marinade? We just doing a little salt, pepper, garlic? What are we doing?
Well, I went and I bought the Blackstone griddle.
Oh, okay.
And, now I just put sea salt and coarse pepper. That's all I put on it.
So,
best steak I ever cooked.
Really?
Yes.
So because you can't. The only thing with that is right is that there's no ability to turn the heat down and cover the way that you normally would when you're doing a steak. So how did you do it? How did you manage the heat process?
I just turned it on about medium, and I got a meat thermometer. I cook it till it's about 130 degrees. Take it off, let it set for about 5 minutes.
So it got up to about 130. Yeah, it got up to about 135, which is right there at medium rare, which is perfect.
Yeah, it's good.
I've played with one of those. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm my bad.
No, you're good. I've just been intrigued.
He's talking over you.
I've been intrigued by the Blackstone. That's been something that it's a toy that I've thought about getting for myself. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's well worth the money. The only thing I wish I'd got the bigger one. I got the smaller one. I wish I'd got the bigger one, but it's worth the money. They had an old post come up on the board today, and I was catching a little slack over it. It was before Kiffin was hired, and I'd posted, that I didn't think he would come, which I'm tickled to death he did. I took my little boy to the press conference when he was introduced at the Florida.
I think we lost Jeff.
He's there.
Oh, there he is.
But I was just wondering, how long do you think it will take him to be successful enough for other programs to come knocking on his door?
Yeah, I'll answer it with you. I think your signal's okay. I think he's going to win, and I think he's going to win quickly. And then I think there's this tendency among Ole Miss people to get freaked out about the idea of him leaving. And I'm going to give you my supermodel comparison again. If I offer you, let's pretend you're not married here for a minute. If I offer you as a young guy the opportunity to date a supermodel, but I tell you up front, hey, she's going to leave you for like an oil tycoon or something. There's always somebody out there better than you, and when she finds him, she's going to leave you. But you're going to be with her for, say, 3 years, okay?
Okay.
And your two choices are you can say, yep, I'll date the supermodel, knowing that she's going to leave me, or I can just instead settle for the homely girl who probably isn't ever going to leave me, but she's never going to look like a supermodel. If those are your two choices, which choice do you take?
I'm taking the supermodel.
Why?
Because she's best looking.
Yep, but that's not the best.
That's not the
that's
part.
not the reason. So there's two reasons that you take the supermodel. One, you get to sleep with the supermodel. Two,
it was two that I was thinking, but yeah.
Two, her supermodel friends are going to see you with her over the years. And they're going to think, at first, I don't know what she sees in this Jeff guy. And then it's going to be, I wonder what it is about this Jeff guy. And then after a while, they're going to think, you know what? She ever singles him up, I'm going to make a move on Jeff there. And so what happens when the supermodel ultimately leaves you, and she will, she'll go to her version of greener pastures, you're going to suddenly be more in demand than you've ever been in your life. And when the second supermodel leaves you, you will have your choice of supermodels down the road. Lane Kiffin is Ole Miss's first supermodel. It's an opportunity to get it right. Lane Kiffin can't leave Ole Miss until he's winning. He can't leave, unless he just bails on it, and I don't think that's the plan. Lane Kiffin can't.
I don't either.
Lane Kiffin can't get the big-time job until he's won big here, until he's done something special where he's national news. And if that's the case, and he leaves for, I don't know, fill in whatever school, NFL team you want, when he leaves, suddenly you're going to be able to conduct a coaching search that Ole Miss has never been able to conduct before. You won't be having to limit your search to people with Mississippi ties or someone who went to school at Ole Miss or whatever. You're going to be able to search nationally, and you're going to have to filter through a number of hot candidates who will suddenly want your job. That's why quit worry. And I'm not talking about you, Jeff, but just in general, don't worry about it.
And you're in the SEC. There are only so many jobs anyway.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not worried about it. I'm just kind of curious on what your thoughts was.
No,
how quick he could turn it around enough to have other people interested in it.
And there's no way to know that in a vacuum, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen everywhere else. But I think Ole Miss is winning in 2022. I think they're winning in 2023. And when I say winning, I think they're going to be winning big. That's just my opinion. And then, when he wins big, people are going to be interested. But like Chase said, in today's market, and look, we don't know. I was reading a Cubs article today about and I'm not getting on that subject, I promise I'm not, but I'm using it as an analogy. The Cubs have a lot of contracts that are expiring. They've got some young guys. They got to figure out, well, how do you extend them? What do you do? And one of the comments that was made was, who knows what life's going to look like post-COVID? Who knows what money's going to look? It's hard to make decisions. So the point is, how many programs out there in a post-COVID world are going to be able to pay their football coach $6-7 million a year? So the answer is it's kind of hard to really know, but I think Lane Kiffin's got to stay at Ole Miss long enough to win, and I think that's going to take him 3-4 years to get to that place, and who knows how invested he'll be at that point. At that point, he'll have 4 years of sweat equity into a program that he doesn't have today.
Do you think he would be more interested in probably going to the NFL?
I just don't know him well enough to know, and who knows again what that market looks like, and he's one of those things. It's just impossible to predict. He's always kind of moved on and stuff, but I think there's still a while yet.
Yeah, I hope we keep him for 10 years or more.
Yeah, that's and that's what you try to do. You try to keep him, but in the event that you don't, it's because you won so big that he was such a hot commodity that you couldn't hold on to him, and at that point, you find the next supermodel.
Right.
Where'd you say you were from, Jeff?
It's Belmont. I'm right between IU and
Yeah, I know where Belmont is. Yeah, absolutely. Well, what do you think about the game today? Last thing, how's it going to go?
Well, I got a good feeling about it. I think we'll may move some people around a little bit, and I think the defense will play better. Maybe shows maybe a little different look or move some people around. I think we'll put enough points on the board to win it.
Okay. Well, maybe talk to you later. Enjoy those steaks, and we'll see how it goes.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
All right, Jeff. Bye. All right, that was Jeff. We'll shut the phones down now.
Yeah, the way we do this, like last week, we are going to stop this stream. Just hang in on our YouTube page. We're going to pretty much open one back up, and as Ole Miss is kicking, we will go live with our in-game show. Pete DeWeese will join us. We'll with some food later. We got some stuff going on during the game. So Ole Miss, Kentucky in about 10 minutes or less. We'll be right back here. So come hang out with us, and we'll watch the Rebels and the Wildcats. Take care.